I just went to my first science fiction and fantasy convention and I had an amazing time there. Lots of really nice people, so many interesting panel discussions, so much great writing advice, and of course, I bought a ton of new books. So I decided to make a memory journal spread for it, and I want to take you through it. So I hope you're excited to hear about my experience at Eurocon 2026. Let's get started. First off, let me prepare this spread so that we can get started with the details. This is actually in my memory journal, where I put a lot of entries for trips that I took and events that I went to, just so that I can remember them better and have a look back at them sometime later. I usually don't share this one publicly, so I'm only gonna keep it to this spread as well. And you will notice that I am doing the whole spread in German, because that tends to be my normal language for my memories since I'm German. And of course, the Eurocon was in Berlin this year, so it just makes sense for me to stick to German here. Nonetheless, I will tell you everything that I write down, so don't you worry, you will get all the information if you want to. I also have to say a second thing just to let you know, because my line drawing is not doing very well today. And the reason behind that is that it's really, really hot here. So my hand is getting stuck to the table and getting stuck to stuff all the time. So it's really hard to draw a straight line because I just can't move my wrist much. But with that said, I don't care because it's my memory journal, so it doesn't have to be quite as perfect. And I know that I will still enjoy having a look back at it in a few years. So yeah, let's get started. In case you haven't heard about Eurocon, as I hadn't before this summer as well, it is basically a designated convention in the science fiction and fantasy area. And while there are multiple conventions in different countries every year, there's only one Eurocon every single year. The different other smaller conventions can apply basically to become the next Eurocon. And so this year it was Berlin and next year it will be in Lisbon. And basically it just highlights one of the local conventions and brings a lot more international people there. I heard about it from the newsletter of the Otherland bookshop in Berlin, and I really thought that it sounded great, especially when I looked at the program and saw that Becky Chambers was there as well. And with that said, I just decided that since I do want to get back into writing, it would be a great idea to go check it out and see what all the panels and advice sessions were all about. And of course, because it's in Berlin, which is a few hours by train from where I live, it was easy enough to get there, so I decided that this was the year to get started. And I can tell you right now that I absolutely enjoyed it, and I'm very happy that I went. And because it was such a special event, my spread is going to be a bit special as well. Because if you go to one of these conventions, then you can collect these ribbons that are for the convention itself and for all kinds of stuff that is happening at the convention and will be happening in the future. I didn't quite know the concept, but since I saw everybody else doing it and I was told that the idea is to collect all of them that you interact with, so I decided that I, of course, wanted to get a few as well. And I want to put them in here in my journal spread to keep them as a memory as well. To do that, because you can stick them on the back of other things, I'm creating two little basically windows in my page so that I can put them in there. So if that looks strange, then that's why, but I think it comes together quite nicely in the end. Anyway, let's get back to the convention itself, and let me tell you a bit more about it. After taking the train to go to Berlin, I left my luggage at my hotel and then went over to the amazing location of this con. It was in the Silent Green, which is an old crematorium that is no longer in use and has been converted to an event location. And it was amazing. It has really beautiful old halls and a lot of nice green areas that you can just walk around. And it also created quite a few smaller areas to meet up, like conference rooms kind of. And it has a huge underground area where earlier things were stored to have the crematorium work, but now it's a big event location and you can have a disco or a big convention space in there. So it was great. And of course, there were a lot of different clubs and groups and communities of people there as well. And I will say that I didn't know a lot of them because while I do read a lot, I'm not that active in the community so far. And it was really interesting to go through the different areas and look at the different stalls and talk to a lot of people. And when we move on here to the next page, let me tell you what the best thing about this convention was, in my opinion. And that is the people. Because I got there and within a few minutes of arriving, I felt like I belonged. Everybody was really nice. If you were standing around with any other person, you would just get to talking. And of course, we all had somewhat similar interests. And it was really easy to get into great conversations and meet nice people. I had been nervous before going there because I do not necessarily enjoy doing these huge events with so many people around, but it was just fine. I really didn't mind after just a little bit, and it was a great atmosphere. And the best thing was there were so many authors there. Becky Chambers, I already mentioned, Aiki Mira as well, and all of these authors that were there were just walking around like normal convention goers, and you could just talk to them and go up to them. And of course I had to get a few books and get them signed as well, which was great because there were so many opportunities to meet those people, talk to them and have your book signed. And it also helped a lot to just get to know more that was happening all around in that field. I also really enjoyed the panels. So on the first day, I basically only listened to a few panels so that I wouldn't have to interact too much because I didn't know before I got there how much I was going to like the atmosphere. And it was really great to see so many people talk about science fiction and fantasy and also have so many women on the panels and talking about it. So I really loved my time there and it was really interesting for the first day. On the second day, I was already a bit more relaxed and I was overall less stressed because I didn't have to take the train, which always is a bit stressful in Germany, to be honest. And so I decided to make the most of the days that I had there, which meant that I went to a writing workshop about utopias, which is a really interesting topic because I grew up in a time where there was a lot of dystopian writing. And it was really nice to have a bit more of a focus on a positive future for once and talk about utopias and in that vein also about solar punk, which often combines. So we had a great discussion among all the workshoppers about how we would imagine our better future. We collected ideas, we wrote up guidelines for our future society, and then in the end, each of us wrote a little fiction story based on that topic. It was quite hard to come up with an idea in so little time because the whole workshop was only about 2 hours long, but it was really fun to do and I think it was completely worth it. It's definitely not the best story that I wrote, but at least I wrote another short story, and since coming back I've already gone over it again and edited it slightly so that I could share it with other participants in the workshop, and it was really nice to have us give feedback to each other. But yeah, that workshop was definitely one of my highlights from the whole convention, but it was not by far the only one. In the evening of the second day, there was the opportunity to get to know a few members of a fantasy writing network in Germany, and I figured that would be a great idea to get some more information on the field and maybe get some input on how to get involved later on. So again, I had to convince myself to do it, but I went there and get to meet quite a lot of really nice people as well, had great discussions and got more advice on how to get started with writing again, and some more advice especially on where to possibly publish some short stories in the future. That also helped me decide on which panels to go to in the later days, so that was just a great option. And also, I only noticed how many authors were there basically in the same space. That was amazing. And as I mentioned already, another big topic was talking about solar punk, because a few of the authors that were specifically featured in the panels were focusing on this topic. And it is a genre that is getting more present all around, which is something that I really enjoy. So after listening to a few panels on the topic and looking around, I also found an interesting small Italian publisher, which is called Future Fiction. And basically they publish a lot of anthologies of short stories in solarpunk. And I found a beautiful collection of female-written short stories from the Global South, which sounded amazing because they have all been translated to English, so I can definitely read them, and of course I had to get that book as well. So as you can see from the images, I already picked up quite a lot of things throughout the early days, but let me tell you, it didn't get less. On the third day, I already felt like I really belonged in this community and I had an amazing time. I decided to go and try to talk to every single person that had a stall on there, which I didn't quite make, but I talked to a lot of them because, of course, there's a lot of little independent authors there as well. And that was a great opportunity to get them to pitch their books to me and just to see if there was anyone that I wanted to read something by. I did try not to buy way too much because, of course, I had to carry it back with the train somehow. So I tried to only directly buy books by people that I had heard talk on the panels and that I had really enjoyed, because I felt like that was a fair enough assessment of whether I might vibe with their books as well or not. And what was really beautiful was that I made quite a few contacts that I always ended up meeting again and again. And after a few times meeting up by chance, we just decided to swap numbers, and we also had a little group where we could write to each other and decide to get together and meet up somewhere, and that was amazing. Also, there were some people presenting at Eurocon that I had already heard of or that I knew, basically. It was really interesting to go see the group from Andere Welten, which I read an anthology of. And they did a choose-your-own-adventure kind of storyline live on the panel. And we as the audience got to decide where the characters would go. So that was really fun and a very special event for me as well. And finally, after I had completely committed to starting out with writing short stories, just because it would take me forever to write a novel, and I've been interested in writing shorter fiction for a while as well, I decided that I really had to go and look at all the different types of magazines, because those are one of the best ways to get into shorter fiction and get to reading more short stories. So I looked around a few different panels and talked to people, and I also looked through the different stalls for the magazines, and I picked up quite a few. So I picked up 2 German magazines that also accept short stories by other authors, so that sounds really interesting for me. I picked up one of the biggest English-speaking science fiction magazines as well, and then one more that sounded really interesting that translates Chinese short stories, which sounded like a very cool idea to get to know a different culture a bit better. In any case, it was really great to talk to so many different people and get a few insights, and of course I'll show you the magazines in just a bit as well. And in the end, the only thing that was a bit difficult throughout the convention was getting enough food and having enough breaks, because there were so many amazing things to go to and amazing panels and discussions and workshops that I just couldn't often decide to skip a whole session to have some time to eat. So basically I used the half-hour breaks in between to grab a little bit of food, and that just had to be enough. But in the end, it was definitely worth it, so I'm not complaining. So once the 4 days were over, I did have a whole assortment of new books, very interesting recommendations, some flyers to look through, and a lot of really cool ideas to write about myself, and of course also quite a bit of writing advice to shift through. So I will be doing more videos for this series, but the next ones will not be just me talking about the convention, but rather me talking about the writing advice and the ideas that I took from it, because as I will show you in a minute as well, I've just prepared a new journal, which will be my writing journal, and I'm really excited to get started with writing more again as well. So I hope that is something that interests you as well, and you will also want to join me on that journey. Let me know. Anyways, in terms of the convention, I talked to a lot of people that also organize other conventions, so I have a great plan for what to do in the future, because I really want to go back to more of these types of con. And I already know the best options for those. While I'm still not sure if I want to go to a full Worldcon, I know that in 2029, which is still a bit away though, it will be in Dublin. Before that, it's a lot further away from Europe, so I don't think I will make either LA, Brisbane, or I'm not quite sure where the next one is, but that's okay. So anyway, if I do want to go to Worldcon, I probably start in Dublin. But for the less distant future, I have heard about the Easter con called Undefined that takes place in Glasgow. And that would be a great opportunity to go and also do our Scotland trip that we were wanting to do. So maybe that is something that we will look into. But one thing I know for sure, and that is that I will take my first trip to Portugal next year, because that will be the next Eurocon over there, and I really want to go visit the country, and this sounds like a great opportunity to just go the first step. So yeah, those are my plans for the future, and this is the full memory spread that I did for this event. But I'm not quite done with this video yet, because I also want to go through all the books and magazines that I bought and show you what is new on my TBR, of course. So let's head over to my cozy little reading chair, because it's much easier to show you there, and let's go through them. So the first books that I picked up, of course, are by Becky Chambers and are the Monk and Robot series, starting with A Psalm for the Wild Build, the two little novellas that I enjoyed so much last year. So I read them already, but I really wanted to have them because I keep recommending them as a really nice, cozy solar punk sci-fi. So it's great to finally have them myself. Next up, I of course had to get some more books by Becky Chambers as well, because my library doesn't have many. So I have To Be Taught If Fortunate and also The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. And I'm really excited to get to reading them quite soon. So let me just put them up back there as well, and then we can go on to more different authors as well. Next up, we have The Nile of Service by Eike Mira, who is a German author, and I haven't read anything by them so far, but this one sounded really interesting, and a lot of her talks were quite interesting as well, so I decided to pick it up. Next up is a book by an author that I also found through some of the panels that he took part in, and that is City of Day by October K. Santarelli. And he was just such a nice, bubbly personality that I was really interested to find out how he writes. And this book just sounded the most appealing to me, so I'm interested to see where it goes. Same concept, I also listened to Sherry Singerling quite a few times on the panels, so I wanted to pick up one of her books in her interconnected universe, which is quite a cool idea just by itself. And the one that sounded the most interesting to me was Noyen. So I figured, let me take that one. With that said, we already have quite a few books standing around here, but we're not quite done yet. As I said, I also found future fiction, and future fiction does have quite lovely solar punk. The Bright Mirror is a collection of stories by female authors, which is something that I love. And Ecolution is by Francesco Verso, who is the main guy behind the publishing house, as far as I know. So I had him on quite a few panels as well. And with that said, I think we have all the books that I bought, but of course there's still the magazines to go, so let's get to those. As I said, I got 2 German ones. So the first one is Weltenportal, which, as you can see, has a bit of a sci-fi vibe as well, but I think it combines sci-fi and fantasy stories, so I'm really interested to look into it further and read it. And the second German one is Fantastisch, which plays more into fantasy just by the title, but I feel like the 2 genres don't get separated too much. Then there is Kapselmagazin, which is the magazine that translates Chinese fiction, and that just sounded very intriguing, so I decided to pick up 1 issue as well. And finally, we have the English one, which is Clark's World. And I got to listen to the editor from this magazine, who is Neil Clark, on quite a few panels, and he had some really interesting points. So I decided that it would definitely be worth it to read that magazine as well. So yeah, that's all the books and magazines I got, but I got one more thing as well. And those are nice little earrings that are in the shape of a book, which just sounded really fun. And I will say that I don't have the holes in my ears to actually put in normal earrings. So the nice creator even put up clips for me so that I can use them as well. And this is the edition that is specifically for MetropolCon, so for the Eurocon this year, which is amazing. And yeah, that's it. That's all the books, magazines, and stuff that I bought at the convention. And I know it's quite a lot in terms of my TBR. It will take me quite a long time to get through all of them. But I am really excited to get started because all of the authors that I talked to were just really, really interesting people. And the storylines sounded so different, and a lot of them were things that I hadn't ever heard about. So I'm really interested to see how they read, and I will definitely tell you more about them sometime soon. Please do let me know if you want me to go into more detail on what these books are about. Then I will definitely do a TBR video for that as well and go through all the books that I haven't read that are a bit more unknown and that you might not have heard of. So if you want that, let me know in the comments. Because if you don't let me know, I might just not get around to it. But if that's something you're interested in, I will definitely do it for all of my fellow readers, of course. And I have already mentioned my new writing journal as well. I have this incredibly beautiful journal by Archer and Olive from one of the latest collections that I got. And I decided that this cover is just the best fit for my new writing journal. So I already set up my title page for that because I just wanted to do that in a very chilled way, and I didn't want to have to film even more since the last spread that I showed you today was quite long to do as well. But anyway, I want to put down all the writing advice, any ideas that I have or things that I find out about writing, and my own writing journey in here. And that is something that I want to show you as well in the future, but it's probably not going to be as regular as my normal book and reading content. But yeah, that's all that I have for you in my tiny reading corner back here. And yeah, that's basically it. So while we have a quick look through my memory journal spread one more time, all that's left for me to say is thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed having this different kind of video for once. And since it was a bookish event, I hope it was interesting for you as well. I would also like to know if you would be interested in hearing more about my writing journey and following me go through my writing journal and putting in advice and other ideas in there, as well as maybe writing a few short stories. I can't promise that I will write all of them in English, because I think I will do some in English and some in German most likely. But let me know if that's something that interests you as well. And I soon will have more typical content again for you, as my next video will most likely be on the first 5 books that I read for the R Fantasy Bingo. So you can look forward to that if that's more of the stuff that interests you. In any case, I want to say thank you very much for watching, and as always, have a great rest of your day and go read something nice. I'll see you next time. Bye!